We're uneven. I'm just waiting to bring up the user chat. Mike, did you get that?
I did, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, we'll have to do a study and FFA or FAA. Will have to
They were headed in yesterday.
do all of their analysis. Yeah. And I see there was administrator down there that I and he must have done that with guys.
I'm for sure they ended up pretty close in that group of guys. Yeah, I still like the rock, but you know, when you're landing and you accidentally hit the road, right? Not that you already had energy
Right.
before you hit.
Right.
Thank you for that last night. I can pass that on.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Sometimes people will put something in front of mail, like Gmail or something, and it'll respond, but it's just mail.com that she uses.
She didn't tell me that. But, yeah, sometime in there.
Mr. Burke. We have a quorum. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the cultural committee. First on the agenda is the DEC deer hunting by 12 and 13-year-old report. And we get a chance to look down through it. I found it very interesting. Number of licenses called the 13-year-old hunters was 9,859. Deer harvest reports for 12 and 13-year-old hunters. Lions bow was 1,564 deer. And the page 3 is the even more important hunting related shooting incidents, 0, hunting violations, 0, and hunting license revocations, 0. It goes on to conclude that it was successful and is looked into being a permanent. County forest lands, need contact information for deer management permit on the county lands. As especially when I spoke, perhaps Eric would be the best person. A couple of years ago, before the passing of Mr. Copeland, I would have thought he would have been a good person from the board, as he used to ride the properties with his horses and such. Any discussion on this? Any people's opinion? Mr. Bergman, who would you think would be probably Eric? Eric. Was it Sawitsky? He's managing it.
No, Jack Mutual. Looks good.
Well, this is for our DMAP tax.
Yeah.
I don't think we want.
Yeah. Sure, what do you think? Reach out to Eric and see if he's been.
Well, like we discussed, I think Eric would be the most obvious because he's out there all the time. And then as a secondary contact, I'm just with the board of supervisors.
Do we need that in any sort of motion or? Well, we got to ask Eric.
I wouldn't make it a motion anyway. I needed something. So, sounds good to everybody. That's what I'll act on.
Okay, reach out to Eric on that. Justin, your monthly report.
Don't think I have much to add, we're getting more open to having people coming in. I had the 4-H group from the Silver Springs 4-H group come get a tour. I love doing the tours that I show them how we bring a dog in, I show them how live traps work, how the rabies pole work, what muzzles look like, our big long gloves we use, that's fun to do. And then get a tour of the building, and we have a dog that's good for not to mess around and play with brush and all that. So they're about 2 hours there, which is fun to do. So we had our first one since COVID, so it's nice to have them come in. Well, that's about it. We're just a lot of volunteers coming in doing community service work, and so we get on critters and do what we normally do. Been finding a lot of dogs in bags at Perry area that they've been. I think people don't know how to get rid of their dog if it passed. Common sense is years ago we would dig a hole. Or you would take your passed away pet to a vet if you want to cremate it, but instead they're double bagging them in black plastic bags and tossing them, and people who are hiking and stuff find them. Most of the time, yesterday, Daryl and I were able to get one out of a swampy area, but it was very visible. But Silver Road and Beardsley Road, that's kind of that one corner is kind of isolated, and it was the woman who walks, legs sticking out of the bag, and she felt bad. So they were able to get it without getting hurt, and it wasn't too far gone. I do have a bag of line, and I keep one at the shelter. You may come across some, we just have to line because there's no way we can get it. I know it's not my job to do, but if it's down along the roadway and people are seeing it, I just feel terrible to just leave it. So we're at number 4 right now that we picked up that way.
What I discovered is the coyote hunters sometimes are leaving the coyotes where they shoot them.
Yeah.
You know, we found them out in the field this spring.
Yeah. Years ago, the first time I ever hurt both my knees was on West Middlebury Road. Someone found, they thought it was 2 dead coyotes or dogs hanging under like a tunnel where the small tree planted. And so I got there and I thought they were like small shepherds also. And I didn't know how to do any, I was new to finding dead animals like that. So I went, that was when Miller's feed was open. But 4 bags of line. After I called my husband, I went, how would I get rid of, well, if they're really bad, just line them. I'm like, okay. And so I went and bought the line, and I was carrying the line bags down when they got my feet caught on some grapevines that were growing, and went forward, the line went, and both my knees were like.
Did you end up in the line?
The line went
You
forward.
must have looked like a sugar donut.
Yeah, well, it didn't, we just kind of rolled, but I went forward into this swampy mess and hurt both my knees, but ended up, I got down there, they were kind of, so they hung them with their red baleen twine. People thought they were red leashes.
Oh.
And so I cut them down, lined them, and walked away. But you could smell them all over the road, so people could smell them in their homes down on that area. So. Yeah, so if they're really bad, I'm lining them. If you get a complaint, I'm just not gonna try to ruin them, I'm just lining them. If I can get them, and be double bagged, this guy, this one. This is number 3 in 4 weeks. So I don't know what's going on, but people, I don't know why they don't just bury them.
The tags are not nice.
No, and this one here, we didn't open the bag too far, it was that bad. So we were able to keep it contained in the bag, we weren't gonna open the bag. The other ones, no collars, no nothing. I documented male, female, color, I didn't check age, that's all we did, I documented. So we are picking them up. I don't know, you might say I shouldn't go get them, but at the same time, the public's making me aware of them, I feel responsible at that point to do it. And obviously, that we're not gonna be claimed because they were dumped, so you know. I do have something I wanted to get, like, maybe a green light to explore. There's an animal abuse registry I'm dealing with the North Tonawanda City Court, and the guy moved to Hiram Lake in our arcade and moved in with his family. And it got past the sheriff's department, and they kind of passed it to me to interview this guy, and apparently he spent three months in jail. He was accused of torturing and, let's see if I can find the actual writing that they used. It's called Animal Abuser Registration Forum. And he actually was convicted of, under Article 7 in the animal abuse section, 5353, there's a whole bunch of A, B, and C. So he's now moved to Arcade. I think the mailing address is Arcade. So I did go and interview him. I got all this information. He tried to explain to me what happened. Sounded like it got kind of mixed up, but he did get arrested. And we don't have an animal abuse registry in Wyoming County, and actually it's rare that there have been formed. I would like to see if it's okay with the board that I meet with someone at the sheriff's department and maybe explore the idea of having a registry in Wyoming County. We might be one of the first counties to do that, but that would help if we've had enough neglect cases in our county that at least a judge could, when they're sentencing them, tell them now you're on a registry. And we could pass that information on wherever they move to, they have to at least let them know where they move. So say they live here and we're convicted and they're on our registry, they move to Portland. They have to let somebody know, the court know that they live there so they can be checked on, hopefully by someone like me. I did talk to a couple animal control officers and they told me they wouldn't have gone out. But I felt responsible when I told that he's there and they asked me to do it, that I should. And I filled out quite a form. I have a complaint form that I use, and I spent quite a bit of time writing everything I found. I don't know if it'll go anywhere. It may be one of those things, there's so many loopholes that we can't do anything, but I'm thinking if we could, then if we got the registry up and running, then I could meet with the Magistrates Association and tell them if you've got a case like in Perry, with the guy who threw the dog, he could be put on that. Then it's not only just they're convicted, but maybe now they realize there's more ramifications for long-term future for them by owning a pet if they've been convicted of. They have to be convicted of it. I'm wondering if that would be okay to at least explore. I may come up that it's too much and we can't jiggle anything around to make it work, but I would like to, in the back of my mind, it's gonna be sitting there thinking, should I have done something like that?
In the past, we had people that moved from Allegheny or Cattaraugus County that they were known in those counties, and they ended up getting in trouble here too, so.
Because there's no registry, there's no way of following them. And it's kind of, not to compare the two, but it's kind of like if they've been a sex offender or something, at least you're on, they have to let them know where they're going. Now, I don't know if this would end up, we have to meet with probation, I don't know how far this goes, but this guy had to let them know in North Tonawanda where he was moving to, and then they in turn sent it to Wyoming County, and they're like, what do we do with this? And so they called me, and I said, I'll go interview him and let him know I know he's there. He needs to let me know if he moves again, so I can notify him wherever he goes, where he's gone. He was a very nice guy, and I think, but he spent 3 months in jail for it, and big fines, so. And I did talk to the North Tonawanda, one of the officers out there, his name is Thomas Huff. He's now been moved up in more of an administrative role. He told me if I did get Wyoming County to research it and move forward, he would help and how they jump through hoops to establish it, which might be a good resource for us. So I might take 2 months to be able to find out. I can't do anything about it, but I would like to at least spend a little time, but I didn't want to do anything unless you were doing it or inside of it, so.
I think it sounds like a good idea. Any other comments from the board?
Would that be something the county attorney would have to weigh in on?
Yeah, I figured if I started with the sheriff's department, they could help me. And then probably county attorney, it's probably gonna be like one step at a time.
Right.
And at some point it may fall apart and maybe it's not as bad, as hard as I think, or hard as I was trying to process. To me, it sounds pretty simple. There might be a lot of legal things we have to go through, because it's a privacy issue, and do we end up having to pass it as a law, or is it going to go under
Right.
just a registry of some kind? Yeah, it may be helpful for like other animal groups in our county if they say, I know there's somebody I wouldn't adopt to, and they've been convicted, they have to be convicted, period. I mean, it's not something they just share, hey, this guy was shady, that doesn't go, but at least their name could be out there if they call them. I don't know if I would publish it, but maybe when they're convicted is in the blotter that way. He's also now on our Wyoming County Animal Neglect Registry, it might I don't know, maybe it won't make any difference, but I'd like to look into it.
We heard about these registries years ago. I mean, this feels like deja vu to me. So,
With what?
the creation of these animal abuse registries.
Yeah,
It feels like deja vu, but it's not the first time that I've heard about it here.
oh, okay, yeah, I do think, I mean, it can be large animal, I mean, we've got in where there should be something done about thin horses, and I usually work with people, but sometimes we get it has to get kind of nasty. And I don't know, I would like to research it a little bit, just to see if there's any meat to that, any bite we can have. And I think it would,
Ag Markets might have some.
I haven't,
Ag Markets, Ag Markets has some,
well, see, I'm not a humane investigator. So the Article 7 laws are for humane investigators and law enforcement. I am neither. But because we don't have a humane investigator in Wyoming County, the sheriff's department leads on our department to walk them through it. So for instance, if I go to a home and there's 30 dogs and all of them are needing medical care, they're in bad shape. They're underfed, they're standing and stuff. So I go back to the car and I call the sheriff's department. That's what happened on a smaller road when the cat problem was up there. I call the sheriff's department, they send somebody out, they do the processing. But they look to me and say, show me the law. So I pulled, and I will tell you, it's like bedtime reading the Ag Market law for me, because it's so intricate. So I open the law where I highlighted written all and see, this is the number you need, this is the article you need, this is a chargeable offense. And he said, it is, I said, you tell me if this matches what you're seeing. It does, he moves forward, then I go in and help do the cleanup. So I am now, and I thought of becoming a humane investigator, but I don't know if I can play this role in the county. I don't know if I can be both. I'm not sure. And as I've gotten older, I'm not sure, how many fields I want to trump through and look at cows and, it's a bigger, if I could go back and start over in my 30s, maybe I would have taken it on. But I'm always looking for someone who might want to go, you have to go to school for it, you have to get some law enforcement stuff. But they always come to me and say, help us. And so I'm kind of like the liaison. So when Ag Markets comes in and sees I've done something with an animal neglect case, they see my name's on it, it's Officer so-and-so, Wyoming County Sheriff's Department, New York State Police. I've just gone in, I received the animals or found where they needed to go. So this would not imply I was doing any bigger role than I'm already doing, other than Wyoming County, even when I'm gone, would have a registry for those that are prosecuted and found guilty of neglect. So, in whatever venue, whether it be cows or horses or whatever, torturing animals, whatever. And I know we seem very rural, and most people are really good with their animals, and if they're not, and you bring it to their attention and they need to address it, they're very willing to comply. But there are those, as in Perry, who have no regard, and he threw that dog like 10 feet and it was caught on video, on the neighbor's video camera. So he couldn't even say he didn't do it. And he was brass enough to tell me, he says, I just wish I had killed her. So it's like, it was a 10-week-old puppy. So he was convicted, but we have no registry, so he can go about and get another dog. I have no say over. They when this all kind of happened at the same time, we're dealing with a whole different group of people than I did 30 years ago when I started working with you. 2/3 of the homes I go to, I don't even feel comfortable going on their porches, they're so poor. so bad. You're knocking, you're straddling chunks of wood, and you're thinking, man, I have to go through this much. And it's just, and people are aggressive. They aren't interested in working, complying with law enforcement. And I'm certainly far from law enforcement, and I might be the only county employee they ever see at their door though. So I'm sometimes scared, and I know that, I'm ready. And when I let it go, I try to decide, I do what the deputies have taught me, get them talking about other things, bring them down, so you can address why you're there. So, but I rarely do any ticketing alone anymore, because it's gotten to the point where, well, sometimes self-service doesn't work, and they are backing you right up onto into their car. So, and the longer we we were just at the Town Clerks Association called me in Wyoming County, and they want to have a meeting at the shelter, and I'm welcoming that. I'd love to have their pop-up dinner at the shelter. We'll be doing it May 22nd. And one of the things I want to talk to them about is the enumeration, even if it's done countywide. If it's done, people are more accountable. If you let it go for years and years, and then you do it, they're even more aggressive about, my dog's 8 years old and never had a rabies shot. My dog's 8 years old and never was licensed. And why would I do it now? So if we let it go, it becomes a bigger gap to try to close back in. And I will say, in one town, enumeration had been done for over 10 years, when this is probably 15 years ago. When they did it, they had under 400 dogs licensed. They ended up with 1,500 dogs in the town. And in that town, 2/3 of them had never had a rabies shot, and they were over 7 years old. So it can become a public health issue, big time, if we let that kind of stuff. So, anyways, my soapbox, I'm sorry, but.
We do town shop visits and enumeration, half the town 1 year and the other half the other year. Or somebody go through and knock on doors.
And that's risky nowadays, to hire someone to go through to the door. I'll tell you,
He does a great job.
yeah, that's good. If you've got somebody in your town that likes taking that on, but it is a risky thing to have people knocking on doors nowadays. People are not nice out there. I do advise, it wouldn't hurt to do a countywide enumeration. Then the whole town, our whole county knows it's coming. So, so a little bit more absorbed, in a positive way. But we rarely take it, just so you know, some of our hours are, we don't do the overtime. Daryl keeps his hours weird, they belong. Last week I think I worked 65, so it's like, I try not to do that. But when you're ticketing, I'm trying to do two at a time, because you just don't know what you're gonna run into. If it's a place I've been before and I'm comfortable, I'm all right. And we often call, if we're gonna go out on a call and just something feels wrong, I call the sheriff's department to see, is this a home that we can approach, that your officers could approach without a warning? And I'm finding out more and more, no, you need an officer. All right. So it's kind of getting at that point.
Your program of them, they're the ones able to issue tickets and arrest you, but even in my industry, New York State truck inspection, where you have guys on the side of the road, that was always that way. You had the guys from DOT doing the truck inspection that couldn't summons the ticket. And that's why there's always a trooper there with them in order to do that. So that's the common practice.
Yeah. When it comes to issuing tickets for unlicensed dogs, we go, just the two of us go. But if it's a house we've never been to, and it seems like I Google it on my phone, how isolated, and there's just something about, I follow that instinct, and they'll say, 1 out of 3 we need somebody, and then we call an officer and say, hey, we're gonna do, Neil, let's go roadside when we approach the house. And they don't go up to the door, but they're watching, so. Trying hard, I don't want to bring attention to us, but at the same time, I want to be safe. I don't want one to be buried on us because we're just issuing the dog license. So, but if I could get it okay, just to look, explore. It doesn't mean it'll go on. I wouldn't move forward on anything unless I thought it could go somewhere, and I'll bring it back to the board, let you know where I'm at.
Does anyone have an objection to it going forward? Very none, I guess you.
Okay, cool.
See-
I'm
see where
excited
you can
about
go.
researching it, yeah.
Very good.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have Abby with the March update.
Cheryl, I sent a message to our liaison at Ag, see if there's anything out there.
So that's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, there might be something that, you know, isn't it?
I will keep it short and sweet because I have brought some guests today. So really quick, we are getting tons of questions right now about avian bird flu. So last time I was here, I said we were monitoring the situation. Since then, it has spread much further out our way. I'm sure everybody saw the case in Monroe that made the news and got passed around Facebook. Right now, there's obviously a ban on swap sales, poultry shows, the whole 9 yards. We are preparing 2 plans. 1, we are allowed to have birds at fair. 2, we are not allowed to have birds at fair. Say personally, I think it's unlikely that we will be allowed to have live birds at fair. We may luck out because we are one of the last fairs of the season, so us and Erie are kind of keeping tabs on each other and trying to figure out where we might stand. The good thing is that it did not, we haven't had a lot of calls with farmers with concerns or people with backyard flocks yet in our county, which is great. Although we've had 1 or 2. The other thing that did not impact was our incubation project with the school. So those of you who are probably familiar, we run a negative classroom program where all the schools are currently raising chicks and hatching eggs. That did not impact that program, nor, according to the DEC, will it affect our pheasant rearing program. So we will see pheasants are supposed to arrive in about a month. They seem unconcerned, so we will assume that's moving forward. We're also monitoring hemorrhagic fever in rabbits. Rough year for small animals at the fair is what it's going to be looking like. So just a heads up. And then a couple just sort of business items. Board of directors voted to reconfirm my title last week, so everyone's stuck with me for at least a little while longer. And then we will be going through our accreditation process in the fall. Hopefully we will be set for our annual meeting, and then we will be getting into budget for the month. So things are moving quickly. 4-H Centennial, I think I've done this before, is on June 12th, and that'll be up at the fairgrounds. So we're just finalizing plans for that. It should be a good day. Hopefully the weather is not what it is today. And then we are getting ready for our annual garden day sale, which will be coming up as well, which is one of the main sources of blight-resistant tomatoes in the county. So if you need some tomato plants, let me know. Other than that, I am going to turn it over to our guest today. Yes, tomato plants. Tomato plants, all right, we'll put you down. We're just getting ready now, so I'll add you to the top of the list. Hopefully they are alive by the time Erica comes. So I'd like to, most of you know Mike Sandler, who's the leader of our Northwest New York team and also our field crop specialist. And I would like to introduce you to Caitlin Lutz, who's our bilingual dairy management specialist, also a veterinarian. I brought him here today to provide some updates on what the Northwest New York team has been up to in the region. The last thing I should add is that Joan's last day with us, Joan Petson, is Friday. So if anybody wants to swing by the office, we had a retirement party for her last week, and she will be in later today. She was hoping to join us today and couldn't do a conflict. So if anybody wants to see Joan, swing by the office sometime in the next few days. She should be there through Friday. And I will then enter my morning period. We're looking at staffing options over the next few weeks, and we'll go from there. But so I'll invite Caitlin up.
I'm gonna let Caitlin kind of go first because you guys know who I am. So Caitlin came on in September, so she's fairly new.
Hello, nice to meet everyone. I'm Caitlin. I'm sure that all of you have met Libby Eisner over the years as the previous bilingual dairy management specialist with our team. And moved on to Cargill. So I'm trying to fill her very big shoes. So like Mike said, I started in September. I was a large animal veterinarian, focused on dairy mostly for 11 years prior to that. I live out in Geneva way, but I told Mike I pretty much live half the time in Wyoming County now. So obviously you're the largest dairy county and have a lot of our larger dairies as well. So a lot of the work that I'm doing is on the HR side of things, working with employees, helping to translate meetings, and work with all of the labor issues that we have, on the dairy side, as I'm sure many of you are aware. New York State is passing us. So, I do work pretty closely with, Dr. Richard Stuck with the Ag Workforce Development Center down at campus. So, we're planning some, courses that are ongoing for supervisors, across ag, all commodities of ag. A lot of dairy folks have attended these courses so far virtually, and I'm helping to develop those courses going forward. So that's been a really good thing to see some Wyoming County folks, supervisors and managers join us on those courses on leadership. Recently, actually on Monday, we just finished up a calving workshop series, and we had one over at True Farms in Wyoming. So that was, we had 15 attendees for a half-day workshop on calving. And we also did an AI course just over the border in Livingston at Noblehurst Farms a few months back, and had quite a few attendees from Wyoming. So those are kind of big programs that we've had in person recently that would, have a lot of attendees from Wyoming. We also put on some virtual programs that Mike's gonna touch on around our quarterly report. But those involve Net Zero Initiative, Transition Cow, so all of our kind of high intensity management, health factors. So we have a few hundred attendees on those webinars. And also a lameness webinar, and those were along with Pro Dairy. So we had people from all over the state as well as outside attend those webinars when we couldn't do as much in person. Lastly, and one of the reasons I'm in Wyoming County so much is working on a monthly basis generally with a bunch of your larger dairy farms, helping them with their ongoing training efforts along animal health lines, as well as translating their meetings with their Hispanic employees. So I've been working with True Farms, with Old Acres, Smithall's, with Youngers, and a few others on a monthly basis in your region. So it's been a pleasure to be here so far. I appreciate working with Abby, working with Joan out here, and yeah, always open to other ideas of what we can do to help.
Thank you. Any questions for Abby at all?
Yeah, anything that you see that we can do on the HR or the dairy side to help your folks out, or any other questions, be more than happy. It was interesting to hear the discussion prior to just be a fly on the wall listening from the veterinary background about all you're doing on the animal welfare side of things. Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
It's been great to have Caitlin on board, just to kind of, you guys remember Jericho Toto and Libby, and I think Caitlin kind of combines them both into, the needs that both of those specialists performed in the past. So it's been very fortunate to have Caitlin on board where she has hit the ground running. She's been there 6, 7 months, and she knows a tremendous amount of farms already, is on farm. As you guys know, from a specialist standpoint, it takes years sometimes to build that trust on farms and to be on farms, be asked to do some of these things. So it shows a lot of Caitlin, her background and knowledge that she's within 6 months, has that trust and is on farms. And so we are very, very fortunate to have her in the region, and of course, you guys particularly in the county. So it's, as a team leader, I couldn't ask for anything better to have someone kind of step into some big shoes and just run with it, and, we're business as usual in the field. So it's great to have her on board. Like I said, some field crop in the last quarter. You guys know I do the big corn congress and big soybean small grain congress every year. We had to go virtual again. So this is 2 years in a row. We had to go virtually with that, which I kicked the can down the road every month thinking it's going to happen. And finally I had to pull the plug on it and go virtual with it. But we still had, 325 people virtually for Congress, 245 for swimming small grains, so we still had some great turnout, even though it was not live. But that's the biggest thing they said is, I really miss my farmer friends and the industry people. Usually they complain about going to see the vendors. Now all of a sudden they want to see the vendors because they haven't seen these folks in 2 years in person. So it's kind of a weird turnaround where they miss the vendors. And some of these, we have 50 vendors at these congresses in person. So it's a lot of people to see that you don't see them. So great subjects. The one thing about the virtual, I've been able to bring a lot of out-of-state faculty members from other universities to talk about their research. And normally I would not have been able to get them to travel to New York. So that's one thing that the virtual programs, and any of our programs that we do, can bring in these folks, these experts that they never hear, we couldn't afford them, but bring them. So we have been providing some really good topics, and I've had people say, man, just that person you brought from Illinois, that topic was worth my price of my annual extension fee and the meeting cost. He said, right there, in that one presentation in 45 minutes. So I think we're hitting the right spot on topics and needs of the region. And we just had we have a dairy advisory committee and we have a field crop advisory committee that we meet with every once a year. And we finish those up in the first quarter. We're looking at that. We have farmers, industry people, academics. We bring them all in and we're looking for what are the needs of the region. And we're looking for input from all those folks, whether it be programming on both ends or research needs. What is it? And so we kind of do those and put them all on big lists. And actually we just our team meeting over here before Jones retirement party. Okay, where are some things that we can work together? Dairy and field crop overlap. And we are seeing quite a few things that are overlapping. This regenerative agriculture, this dairy net zero program that just happened this quarter. Alternative forages for heifers, low cost forages. As you go to our fertilizers, highest prices they've ever been. Our herbicide programs, sky high. Dairies are utilizing every bit of manure they can this year. And there's people knocking their door and saying, do you have any extra? Because we'd love to inject some on our ground and save some money, cost on extra fertilizer. So it's as long as the weather holds out for us, it hasn't been the most conducive weather to do anything right now. And here we are, 4 days is May 1st. So we are behind in what we should be doing at this point. So, New York though, once it happens, it's going to flip the switch and boom, we're all going to be running in, before you know it's going to be, July 1st. So, so it's challenging. Crop prices are their highest ever. I got guys, we have a lot of wheat in, and wheat fields that don't look that good, but they're calling me out saying, can I keep this? I can book wheat for $11 a bushel. Some of you don't understand, but usually if we get $4 a bushel, that's a good year. Last year we got 7, and now we're booking over $11 for wheat. Corn and soybeans are at highs. So you're like, yeah, let's keep this wheat crop this year. Let's make it work. Let's go for that $11. Working on best utilizing my nitrogen. A lot of folks, I think, pre-bought their nitrogen, were able to pre-buy their nitrogen last fall when prices were a little cheaper. Some of the smaller folks probably didn't get to do that. So they're the ones suffering the most, the mid to small farms that did not get to purchase their fertilizers last fall. Things simply like Roundup, we're up to $80 a gallon. If you could find them, many of the dealers just probably in the last 2 months were able to get that product even delivered on their floors to even sell. And now it's down to about $60. I think last year we paid high at $22 a gallon for engineering. So price of inputs, the price of crops is way up there. Price of inputs are, of course, go a little faster usually, and they don't come back down like the crop prices do, right? They stay up there and the crop prices come down. So it's been challenging for a lot of growers to manage these inputs. Even the dairies, even though they got all this manure out there, it's still going to need regular nitrogen side dress. Once that corn gets up to B6, B7, they're going to have to go back out there. So they're still going to have to find some sort of nitrogen other than manure. And those prices don't seem to be coming down. So there's still some challenges in them. But again, they've done a great job with the manure and utilizing that nitrogen source. So that's about from the field crop. We're out there now. I got my flat cutworm traps, my arborworm traps are running. Yesterday I checked them, and guess what? That storm the other day brought them all up. So they are here now from the south, unfortunately. So now I got to monitor degree days from here on forward, which lets me predict when, particularly black cutworm, when they lay their eggs, and when those eggs hatch, and when those larvae are going to be in the right stage where we have to be out in the field scouting for the right time. So it begins today, degree, not getting many degree days today, but it will start to go. So we get 300 degree days accumulated from that first flight. And then that's when I got to put the crop alerts out, let growers know, hey, if you're going to scout, this is when you should be doing it. You know, it's a fairly narrow window when you can catch it in spring. So that's what we're monitoring now. Is, you know, our snowbird insects that decide to come up now. Tail leaf hopper will be soon. Usually by June 1st, we see tail leaf hopper, which most of the dairies are more concerned about with alcohol. So we'll keep monitoring. And we have 6 across the region, and Jody Lethem, who's my counterpart on the team, we have 1 in tank house. So she's already started catching them there last week up there on the hill. So time to
Invasive.
yeah, it's ones that probably are most concerned because they don't want to winter here, so we have no idea what they're going to do. They all blow up from the south. So we'll keep an eye on it. Let everybody know. Any questions for me on the team or field crops? I know, having mentioned about the high pathogenic avian influenza, Nancy Glazer is our livestock specialist. She's been all over the place in the state situation.
Some of the bigger farmers separate the solids out of the manure. And so they just got basically the liquid. What percentage of nitrogen is in that liquid? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so you look at even a ton, look at a ton of manure. You're probably only looking at 5 to 8 pounds of nitrogen per ton.
Per ton?
Per ton. So it's not a high amount, but when you're putting 10,000 to 12,000 gallons on there, it adds up. And a lot of that, the urine portion is more available at first. That's why we like to get it, injected as best, because normally that your portion will evaporate, we lose it. So if you inject it or get it incorporated within, 12 hours, we save a lot of that nitrogen from the urine, and then the breakdown from the feces is slower. So we get that released a little bit later. So it's kind of a longer term release than just a regular fertilizer, which is going to give it to you kind of one shot.
It all depends on the farm too, because whether they're putting their wash water in the bed or lagoon.
How diluted is it?
Yeah, or if they got covers under, some people got pits, but.
We got an inch of rain the other day, so there's an inch of rain that's in the lagoon, which could dilute, the potency of the fertilizer effect. And then everybody seems good. They're all ready to go. We got some peas in, we got some beets in the ground. We got some guys put some oats in. We would like to see our oats in by the 15th of April. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we lose a bushel every day after that in yield after April 15th for oats. I know some guys over on some of the gravel have put some corn and soybean in over towards Mount Morris this weekend. So there's a couple of people that were just chomping at the bit and said, you know what, I'm doing some acres today. And most of this is working on the bugs on the machine, to be honest, making sure the planter is going to be ready to go when it's time. Somebody, in the coffee shop, somebody always likes to be the first person in so they can say,
I saw a couple of fields already fitted and ready to go. Granted, they were on gravel, the bit of gravel that there is in the Shelton Jada area. But those were already all fitted up over the weekend, so.
Yeah, inch of water on them though, boy, unfortunately, you don't want to fit those fields too deep, and you get an inch of water on them, then you're out for a while. You guys had snow. I ran into a gentleman here on the way in, and he goes, yeah, I got 3.5 inches. I don't live 2 miles from here. I'm like, okay. The higher elevation will do it to you.
Still.
Any questions for me? I'm not taking too much of your time. I'm all you guys up. Any of us on the team are always available for any questions. Moving forward, with John's position, we'll decide, where we go with that on our team. John Hanchar is our other farm business management specialist on the team, so we do have another person that covers that, but not exactly what Joan did. So we'll have to see, you know, what gets covered there, and we'll talk to the board, you know, all the directors across the 9-county region that we cover, we'll discuss what do we do with that gap.
You deal much with the potato industry?
Not at all, that's the vegetable team.
You got it.
Here's a specific vegetable team that'll work with it. So I've never been in a potato field.
You haven't. You got no idea what you're missing.
I got this this summer.
You eat potato chips, don't you?
I love potato chips, man. I have a couple bags in my closet right now.
Get involved. That's where they come from, right here.
Yeah.
New York potato chips, all are grown right here in Wyoming County.
Yeah. Well, they're my favorite chips, so unfortunately, I eat too much of it.
I like you better already.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
We have nothing under ag and farmland protection, Vanessa. Oh, Abby?
I should have mentioned, so obviously Joan did a lot of work with the Farmland Protection Board, and both myself and Don Gash will be taking that over. I met with James Bragg last week to talk about, you know, our role in the overall project. So should be a relatively smooth transition. I've been working along with Joan all the way, so have a really good sense of where we're at.
Before you leave, has anybody said anything to you about agriculture?
So I have heard there is a bit of a rumbling about this. I would like to provide some clarity on the record with this lovely body of people. So we chose the day we chose for our 4-H centennial, which is June 12th, because it was indicated to us at that point that there would be no Agripalooza in the early part of summer or spring. We obviously don't run Agripalooza, we're just a sort of partner in that. It's a chamber project. And then we got a lot of questions once we set that date, you know, oh, are you taking Agripalooza's spot? We were told essentially that Agripalooza wasn't gonna happen in early summer, and I know they're also rehiring for some positions over there. Last I have heard, there was some rumbling about doing like a harvest fest, and then next year we'd be back to our normal, like early summer Agripalooza. You know, then there obviously in later summer, but I haven't heard any updates recently on how that's going. We're ready to be involved if it happens, but it'll be a little trickier this year because obviously State Fair is back. So for us, it goes fair, State Fair, and then we'd be right at Agripalooza, which is a little sticky for us. But last I heard, they were looking at doing something in the fall. But we did not take the date. I want to clarify. And it said, you took Agripalooza's date, and I said it was open. We just, and you know, it seemed like a good weekend because people would be expecting something that weekend anyway. But last I heard, Harvest Fest, you'd have to ask Scott. What they're.
I had a few phone calls, that's, you know, a little conversation going on about it. And we did agree that it's too late in the year to do it, you know, during June now.
So that's what we were told essentially, was that there wouldn't be anything in June because it was just too late to get everything together. So we were like, well, we'll snag that weekend, because obviously our centennial only comes once, so we won't need that weekend next year. But yeah, last I heard, they were looking at maybe doing something in the fall, which we'd love to do if it happens. I know both soil and water, and like I said, we're all willing and ready to jump in. We just need to know when it is. But yeah, getting a lot of questions about Agripalooza. People want it back, that's clear. We're getting a lot of questions in our office. So I think if they do something in the fall, it'll be well attended. Assuming it's not, you know, conflicting with like Apple or lunch or craft show or whatever.
Some, almost a different group of people, and having a change from the spring to the fall definitely gives a different perspective within it.
Yeah.
And that would be positive too.
That's kind of what we were thinking, you know, it might be nice to see how that works, and then if it works well, maybe you switch it going forward. If it doesn't work so well, you switch it back to early summer. But people are obviously eager to attend because they've gotten questions.
Livingston County does something, Farm Bureau in the fall, Livingston County. You know,
They do.
kind of watch that.
Yeah, they have a big shipping.
Farm Fest, I think they.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would want to be careful if that was gonna, you know, once again, we don't run Agripalooza, but if we did, you'd want to be careful that it doesn't conflict, because there are obviously so many other festivals going on in the fall. But yeah, like anyone wants a question about that. Something else I should have mentioned, bees, you're getting questions about bees, send them our way. It's a rough year for bees with the weather as it has been. So seeing a lot of just like total hive deaths and a lot of panicked hobbyists who just started maybe last year and now we got a rough winter. Hive health is struggling quite a bit, so send them our way. As Michael alluded to, supplies are in short supply and at high cost, particularly for folks who are just jumping into sort of various pieces of farming. And so rather than panic buying, send them our way so we can kind of talk them through what their options are. Everything's expensive at the moment if you weren't planning on it. That's all I got.
That's true. Thank you.
On that joyous note.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Nothing from soil and water. Conservation. Fair Association, Mr. Roach.
Nothing's changed since last month. We're still dormant. Maybe next month.
The dairy industry,
I'm gonna put Vanessa on the spot. I read where someone, Holly, is sponsoring this or in favor of this bill to get this 1% rinse water milk out of the schools and get 2% whole milk in there. Is he in favor of it? Do you know, or
Holly or somebody on DPH?
DiPietro?
He's in favor of it. He's always been a supporter of the ag industry and in conversations with Holly's office, I know a lot of the dairy farmers in Genesee County are encouraging it because the problem that we're seeing in the schools is the fat-free chocolate milk and the fat-free milk options means kids aren't drinking milk. They don't like it, so they're not drinking it. So the consumption in school rate has plummeted, I would say. They used to be able to get those flavored drinks, those, what's the one that Upstate makes that,
Intense milk?
Intense, and they're not able to get those anymore, and it's either, we've seen a lot of decrease. So in conversations with Holly's office, the Assemblyman was in agreement that we need to encourage, obviously dairy consumption of all sorts, but especially milk in our elementary schools.
There's been a big push in Pennsylvania for this 97 percent. Barney's got it on the side of his pickup.
97%
Fat free, yeah. And you know,
You
one
went
guy
with
down
water.
there, he took some of those big round bales that are wrapped, you know, and wrote on them and made a sign, and that's kind of started the whole thing. There's a congressman down there that's in favor of it, you know, and they want, this was I think a Michelle Obama thing to get this 1% milk in schools. My grandchildren won't drink it.
Yep.
And we had a meeting a couple years ago there. I was president of Rotary. We brought a farmers night. We had the guy from upstate, Bill Schreiber, something like that. The guy's name was, he was like the president of upstate or a manager or something. And he came in and spoke. And Chris Smithall's wife got up and asked him, she took her kids to a daycare and they had to do 1% milk. And the daycare lady told him she had a prescription, she had to get a prescription from their doctor, pediatrician, to send along, and then the kids could drink whole or 2% milk.
Yeah.
Even the daycares were affected.
So what it comes down to is the flavored milks that are not allowed in schools now, are high in sugar and whatnot. That's, you know, that's understandable. It's like, you know, Mountain Dew and stuff is high in sugar, but kids have them there too.
But the problem with that is they're still getting nutrition and
Correct.
they're getting calcium, they're getting vitamins, they're getting a lot in those, even though there's a little sugar. But the problem with that is the school systems say they can't have it during their lunch period during the school hours, but the sports boosters can sell that crap and sell Mountain Dew and candy bars and all of that as soon as they have this, you know,
Exactly.
it doesn't make sense.
So where I was going is that the problem is Michelle Obama got it going on that. And, you know, chocolate milk had too much sugar in it too, and that's what, you know, all healthy. And just like you said, the kids won't drink it.
All right.
Even the skim milk, you know, there's just no flavor to it. It's, like you said, drink water.
Yeah.
And that's what it's come down to. They've taken it, you know, the healthiness of it, they turned it into a negative. And it's really sad. We can just put whole milk back on the lunch tray. It's a half pint. It's a small part of that kid's diet for the day.
Correct. And they're probably not
Half
getting
pint
it
of
at
it,
home.
and it's full fat, so what? And put some chocolate syrup in it. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous, and they keep pushing the health side of things, and the kids don't eat it. And you can talk to any lunch lady, or I say lunch lady, anybody in the cafeteria. The amount of food that gets thrown out in a school lunchroom is ridiculous, because the kids don't want to eat.
You know,
But what a lot of people don't know, my mom was the cafeteria manager for Perry, Byron, Virgin, at the same time she worked for BOCES. And the things that people don't understand is your school tax dollars does not support your lunch program. They have to be self-sufficient. They don't get a portion of your tax, of school taxes, doesn't do that. So they cover their cost of their labor, they cover their benefits, and they cover their, their products by the use of the services they provide. So if kids don't buy their lunch, if they're packing lunch and they're not drinking the milk and they're not buying the ice cream or they're not doing anything, that lunch program doesn't get any sort of funding. Now that we're in COVID and they do have that CARES Act money, they're a little better off. And the strange thing that I didn't realize until my mom had a conversation with me was, as a parent, if I pay my child's lunch fee of $1.75 or $2.25, whatever it is these days, if you're a free or reduced lunch, the subsidy actually is more than that for the school district or for the cafeteria. So those kids that are in need actually are the ones that they really want to serve. So they want to give them a nutritious meal, and they want to give them the milk that they're probably not getting on weekends and evenings and things like that. But we make it so hard. They make these whole grains and stuff. The kids aren't going to eat that because they're not used to that. Their diet at home might be chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. So they're not going to eat the whole grain sandwich or the whole grain pizza crust. So we've almost gone to the extreme where we're not fulfilling a nutrition need because we're too worried about being nutritious for them. So when Mr. Hawley brought this bill forward in conference, they had a conversation about it. And of course, there's quite a few who are against it. And I think the American Pediatric Association may be sending out notices that they don't approve of that because they want the low fat diet for everybody. But yeah, we definitely would rather see that. I mean, my kids won't drink skim milk, so I get it. I don't like it either, so.
Do we think when you have the bill number, just for the minutes?
I can look it up for you. I have it.
I can see you real parents lunch. And then go take it.
The intent is
we
good.
have a resolution in support of that.
It is not here.
It's the one portion that we can control it, but it's not good.
We'll see it every day.
Furnishing a 2% whole milk in schools.
I don't know what the language of the bill is.
Yeah,
2% and whole milk.
Right, it's for
Whole
both.
milk and 2%.
yes.
At one point in time, you heard nothing other than cholesterol on whole milk and cheese,
Just like eating eggs.
everything else.
I don't remember, they take all the good stuff out for everything else and give you the byproduct. They go,
How about it, everybody get up and go do something instead of laying on the couch drinking Mountain Dew.
like I say, we feed them healthy in school, then they go home and do nothing.
Attempt to feed them.
You don't happen to know if there's a sister bill in the Senate.
You gotta keep that potato.
As soon as I find it, it'll tell me. I mean, if he's got a bill number, it'll be right here. Sometimes they announce it before it's actually gone through the opportunity to get a number.
What are you looking under policies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Salt and water.
I don't see it in the LRS, but I'll send a note and get it.
Remember,
That's okay with you.
farm and just put your
You can text it to me,
Took
too.
your bucket,
Okay.
okay, milk, and just take it, all cream goes to the top.
Anything else on the dairy
I
industry?
don't know, he just asked if we wanted to do a resolution in support of this legislation, so.
I think we should look into such a thing.
Motion.
I'll move that we have a letter of support for this resolution.
Well, there's-
A resolution in support of this
Yeah.
bill. When Vanessa gets us some language in the bill.
Motion made, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Carried. Anything else on dairy industry?
Solar Water, spoke about them this week, lately, they're working strenuously on grant type projects within the county, like lagoons, leachate systems. That's a lot of what they're working on as of right now. All plus the agriculture industry and the county. They do a tremendous job up there.
As far as green energy, I just want to comment that last week, Wednesday, there was Invenergy, who is in both the towns of Orangeville and Sheldon, on the wind projects, had a meeting of landowners for what's known as 77 solar. Not the numerals, but written out, 77 solar. They're talking to landowners along Route 77, the entire length of the town of Sheldon, 1.5 miles or so east and west of the of Route 77. It was attended by most of the landowners, but it was the smaller landowners, the Becker Farms, Pearls, and Almader, and Von Almader weren't there. But the rest of the landowners along that section, that corridor, were there to listen to what they had to say. They have not officially contacted the town of Sheldon itself on it. But it looks like they have quite a bit of interest, and again, it's not that it would be the whole entire, every field, it would be little pocket fields here and there that people would be willing to sign up for.
How many acres are they looking for?
I can't tell you, I didn't write the numbers down, and I wasn't there a very long time. I got a phone call from a town lawyer, and I had my town board meeting midway through their meeting, their informational meeting, so I had to leave.
See about the corner down there. I thought doesn't want solar panels, you take it land away from the farmer. And the thing is, they don't want the flat land, they don't want the hillsides. So there's,
I tell you, over there at Centerville, between Centerville and Rushford, there's that complex. It's way the hell off
Mhm.
Centerville Road.
It's a great place for
Yeah, I mean, although that isn't flat, it's not a side hill, but the side hill is flat, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's, what do you think, like, that's right, 30 acres probably at
it. It's
least?
gotta be.
Yeah,
And it's a great place for it,
yeah,
in my opinion.
you couldn't raise an umbrella up there.
No,
So,
it's off, it's on land that's probably, marginal to farm at best.
oh, yeah, I've been trucking my horses over here for 45 years. I've never seen anything up there. Maybe somebody mow a little hay off of it or something. I don't know how they get it off.
It would be tough. It's pretty straight.
15 years ago, when they were trying to put the wind project in Perry, there was a big rush to get on that transmission line. Because they said its transmission line is like a water line, and it only takes so much. Since then, you put the project in Sheldon and Orangeville and Eagle and all that stuff, is that line pretty out full to put any solar on,
Yeah. 230 kilovolt line.
Will everybody in New York City plugs their electric car in?
And that was one thing.
Nice big line. Meet the demand.
On green energy, the Eagle and Weathersfield wind projects are nearing their 20-year mark. The projects have been purchased by AES, and I don't know off the top of my head. I'm trying to find what AES stands for. We had a couple of just meet and greet sit downs with them, both Supervisor Jacoby and myself, and they are planning on re-energizing the projects.
I heard that, because Corey's friends with.
You gonna re-energize your wallets too? We hope.
That kind of perked up my ear. They want to move fairly aggressively with the permitting project. It's got to go out, and they've been looking at the foundations for the turbines and all of those things, because they're going to put slightly larger blades on.
30 foot longer, I heard. Overall, maybe 15 foot longer.
Yes.
Overall, 30 foot.
Yes, overall, so there'll be some changes as far as noise and the flicker and all of those types of things. They're also going to replace the internal components. So I think that's good news.
We're in year 13, because I track it. So we've got a few years yet, but that was good news to get the thing. It's done the project.
For Sheldon, we are per megawatt capable production. So again, with them changing the interiors of it, probably smaller, it actually produces more with a bigger blade and what have you. So for all of us, that have projects, hopefully the income increases. I was told also 12 years ago, as our system was coming online, that because everything's already in the ground, if everything's good, the renegotiation around year 16, 17, typically the towns end up doing better and receiving more. Again, we are in town of Sheldon, we apply 100% of our income towards lowering or greatly eliminating or greatly reducing the town tax. And there was 2 years there when I first came on that there was a town tax. It's back to having none. And again, we hope to keep that going throughout of having no tax. I believe you are 50%.
We have no tax.
You have no tax. Okay. But you're taking the rest of the money and putting it towards, it's in a savings for the future.
Tax deferment.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Orangeville and Weathersfield have, but
Well, I know that Weathersfield does have a small levy. And I don't know what, so it's not.
As I say, I was pleased when they reached out to us and said, we want to continue with this. We're going to re-energize it. All of that was good news.
yes.
I know Sue said they've had some trouble with those up in Orangeville, the GE generators, they've had some difficulties with them. One of them, the blade broke off of,
Everybody's got a brand new car that you gotta take.
Exactly.
Just because this thing was $1 million doesn't mean it doesn't have breakdowns also.
Everything I own, everything you own.
Anything else to come before this committee? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
You're gonna have that, you're gonna have to hear everything tonight.
Yeah.
I just sent you what I got from council research about justice question. I just sent it to you now. So several counties have it.
Yeah, it seemed like deja vu.
Yeah.
Lessons actually.
Reached out to Jay, but he wasn't looking, Mike. Reached out to Jay, but he's not looking at this.
Vanessa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.